Good morning, everybody. We are here at the Howard and Chinwon Reinhardt Peony Garden here at the university campus, on the UM campus in the Phyllis Washington Park, very close to the M Trail, trailhead for all the people, hundreds of people that go every day to the trail, and now the hundreds of people are coming to the Peony Garden in May and June. And now into July. This is June 30th today, so tomorrow's July 1st. The garden is a little bit late this year, and we are adjusting, and the flowers are doing fine, but everything's about 10 to 14 days later than a usual year because we had our cold, wet May. And so Chinwon Reinhardt graciously agreed to come. Ron, our wonderful videographer, said, "Oh, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could have Chinwon stroll through the garden for a visit?" And she helps weed on Monday afternoons often when we have when she can. She's a busy lady. She can't every week. And so we are thrilled to have her help as well as inspiration. She and her dear husband Howard, we lost Howard in November of this past year, but he lived to a beautiful age of 94. Is that true? Did Howard live to 94 years old? I think
he was 94 when he died.
And he got to see 3 of the years of the blooms and was thrilled.
And he couldn't believe it. The progress was so rapid, and the end product was just out of this world, we thought.
The Peony Garden, you mean? Or, yeah.
This one.
This garden. Well,
we have seen many peony gardens, but this is, for its size, the planning and the balance of colors and heights and the seasons was so well done.
Well, we had a wonderful landscape architect help draw up the garden, and then we had all kinds of volunteers help raise money for the creation of taking out the sod and putting in soils and spaces. And then we got names and tags, and people can come and just, they don't have to have anything except the tags for each peony will tell them when they were registered, if they were, or whether they're originals, and that's called species, so they've never been hybridized. There's a great variety in this garden. There are 213 different varieties of the 231 garden spaces. For example, we have 3 Mrs. F.D. Roosevelt, Eleanor Roosevelt, or Mrs. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and the official name is Mrs. F.D. Roosevelt. And Chinwon said, "Oh, I just love, be sure you get Mrs. Roosevelt into the garden." And so we just bought 3 plants. She says they didn't give us these. We got them from our supplier, and they are so beautiful. And so this is sort of, she didn't realize this until this morning we were chatting, that this honors Chinwon, especially because she loved these. They're so elegant, like Chinwon.
Well, you might say I'm a born-again Democrat, so Eleanor Roosevelt is especially dear to me.
Yeah, that's a nice thing to say. And Eleanor was quite the lady, right? She was not going to just sit back and
no.
Whatever. She had lots of thoughts, and that was a great person. So we get to honor Mrs. Roosevelt at the same time we got to honor Howard and Chinwon. Howard was this great faculty colleague of mine at the university. I taught piano 43 years, and Howard taught mathematics for many years and was the faculty senate president and the University Teachers Union president and the dean of arts and sciences. I used to go in his office and visit him when he was the dean, and he was always so welcoming, which I decided is why he became the dean, because he welcomed everybody to come and share their thoughts with him.
Oh, his position, he felt that he should listen first before he spoke.
He told me that, in fact, and I said, "How did you become dean?" And Howard said, "Well, I was always interested in what people had to say. Not just that he should, but he was interested." And then he would say, "Well, that's a lovely idea. If your faculty agree and we can find the money, let's look into it." Kind of that attitude, and not sort of, "Sorry, don't bother me. I have work to do." So what a wonderful guy. And we had many years where Gary and I got to be with the Reinhardts and other friends from the math department world, let's call it the math world, And that's how we got to know them over the years. And about 10 years ago, Gary would say even longer, Gary being a founding father, member of the original committee, Gary said we could have peonies and we could have them at the university because the deer don't eat them. And Howard and Chinwon already had this beautiful garden up the valley, Rattlesnake Valley. So gradually it became more than an idea, and we talked with the Reinhardts and we talked with various members of the community, and everyone thought it was a great idea. So here we are, the first, we believe, and only so far, public garden, not a nursery garden demonstrating the flowers for sale, but a peony garden dedicated entirely to peonies, the first west of the Mississippi River. Ann Arbor, Michigan has a peony garden, right? You've seen many times. But there aren't so many. It's a great thing for Missoula. Great thing for the university. So we're going to walk just a little bit to see some of the beauty, and we are...
You should point out the beauties especially.
Well, the beauties, but this is partly historic beauty because these peonies, the white ones here, not the crinkled white, the first one here that you see, very simple single bloom form, and the simple single ones have just the guard petals and then the pollen and the carpels or the seed pods. And these are just elegant flowers. And it's called crinkled white, we've decided, because the edges are sort of crinkled, like serrated, like the mountain ridges of Montana. But the next three white ones that are just blooming right now, just coming into their peak, probably because of the shade of the mountain and the shade of the tree, they're delayed slightly. These are from the Reinhardt Garden. We asked if they had some special ones that they would like to share. They don't have, in our knowledge, they don't have an official registered name. They're just from, they traveled with you, right?
So they originated in the Midwest where they had lived, the Reinhardt family. And then they...
Iowa, who was it?
Iowa. And then they came to Idaho and brought their peony roots with them. And then life was hard on the
Farm.
prairie, so they went back to the Iowa state, and then they sort of hankered back to be back in the West. So they came again and settled, and the peonies followed them. And so we had a start from his homestead.
Nice. Where in Iowa? I was in South Dakota, like 10 miles from Iowa, or 20 miles. Was it middle Iowa? Just a farm?
I think it was near Davenport, Iowa.
On the other side of Iowa, the eastern, by the Mississippi River.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. But the peonies are happy to move if they need to because they're so sturdy. So these three have, and they have a lovely fragrance. Not everybody gets to step into the garden, but by now I know where all the signs are to not hit them with my shoes. And these have a very gentle fragrance. And they have a beautiful little yellowy cream center, and they're called doubles because they're fully developed into petals, outer guard petals and inner petals that match. But they used to be, in the way long ago hybrid times, before they fully evolved, they were more like this. And then gradually the stamens became petal. They're called staminodes. This is staminodes right here. Staminodes that used to be stamens with pollen on the end, and the anthers, not antlers, but anthers. And now these anthers are still remnants there, but now these don't look like pollen stamens anymore. So that's a Japanese, and this is fully evolved to a double, where these have gone from that to eventually to full petals, but smaller. So it's all kind of a wonderful act of nature, let's say, with a little bit of help from hybridizers. Here's another, probably Japanese, the first one I showed you, with the evolving. These are staminodes instead of stamens, and that's a Japanese. I'm pretty sure this is Japanese. It might even still be considered, whoops, it's the end. We're at peak season and beyond. This is another set from Howard and Chinwon, and it's a reddish pink or a pinkish red, but it's similar, and it's from their garden, and these roots came, this one and this one didn't bloom this year, but these two are from their garden as well. So we're looking forward to their continuation. And we'll just kind of stroll down this little graveled path here. This was part of the ADA, American Disabilities Act, that we could only have this peony garden and make it public if we complied with American disabilities, so that people in walkers or wheelchairs could enjoy the garden. So it was very carefully planned, so you could look to the right or you could look to the left and have a nice stroll. So let's continue. There's one more example that we'll hopefully get to that the Reinhardts gave us, but these are the Itos, and there are 13, and you were telling me something about the Itos, that the name Ito, what did you say?
Oh, Ito is a sort of Mr. Smith in Japan.
It's a very common name. Yeah. So Mr. Ito had tried thousands of efforts to cross a tree with an herbaceous. This is just a normal herbaceous peony, beautiful, beautiful. This is Belleville, not to be confused with Bellevue, Washington, but Belleville, the peony. And this is a double, another one where the middle stamens, staminodes, petaloids have become full integrated petals. And they often do little shading and lightening things that are interesting. But this Ito would be a cross between the pollen from a tree and the carpels or seed pods from, or ovaries, if you will, from an herbaceous peony. And these did not bloom until 16 years after the first little sprouts came up. And Mr. Ito unfortunately passed away 8 years into that project, so his wife and children got to see the result of his lucky development of the Ito. And it got named after him naturally because he was the first. Yes, that upper right corner there is there is the Ito. You're looking at the Ito. There's the story. Thank you. So we go on, and here's another crinkled white. Here's our little mountaintop ridges, the crinkles of the crinkled white. And this is just a single. It's just the simplest form with 1 or 2 rows of guard petals and then the regular stamens and pollen on the anthers and the seed pods in the middle. And so the guard petals, interestingly, if the clouds came over here in probably a half an hour, the darkening of the clouds would make the guard petals close back up. This one is just starting to bloom. But this one, if the clouds came, would just do that and cup itself back. I don't know if it's for rain or for some kind of protection, but that's what they do. So let's just move on. This is another Ito. We have 13 of them. Beautiful old rose dandy. They're so sturdy. They just make a nice bush, and we don't have to stake these. We're staking others because look, over here next, Princess Bride, her bride's dream. I have to see. That's Bride's Dream, I think. No, I'll have to look. Princess Bride. So Princess Bride, I mean, even with the staking, they get heavy. And we're using kind of an elastic cord so they don't just crimp and bend over. And if we have to, we can put another wind on the... We did that the other night. We had to wind, because everything was pulling on the elastic. Okay, so we're going to move maybe just down through this and just kind of stroll along. This is such a great display of a bomb, and it's not a bomb-like explosion of dynamite, but an explosion of petals. And they just come like the 4th of July. I wore my 4th of July shirt today. You can show it. I decided it.
Is this your 4th of July shirt?
Yeah,
that's
like Stars and Stripes, which is one of our piano pieces we play for Pianissimo every year. So this is a great effort of the nature to make the petals just reach for heaven. It's just fun. Colors are really wonderful. Here's another bomb over here, Chinwon. This is angel cheeks. Do you have angel cheeks in your garden?
No.
I don't. It has not much fragrance. Some do, but it has this explosion of petals. Look at that, just coming right up out of the middle. angel cheeks. So I guess it's
And
aptly
yeah,
named.
three big flowers in a stem, and it stands up straight. So it's a very sturdy stem, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
This one.
Nevertheless, we've decided that we're staking anyway.
Oh, here's a.
Yes, there you
interesting
go.
door.
That one sneaked out.
Well,
It missed the curfew. See, what I mean, Chinwon is just a natural caretaker of gardens.
okay, there.
Chinwon and her friend Mavis, and tell me the third person that helped start the Missoula Farmers Market.
Oh, just us two, actually.
Oh, you and Mavis? Okay. And was that partly because of the
It
one
was
in Ann Arbor?
1972 that we started the market. And it was a very poor market at the beginning because the farmers would not plant unless we had a market. And we couldn't promise that we would have a market unless the farmers planted and came. So we had a dilemma, and we just decided to go ahead. And we told all our friends who had gardens that they have to come with everything to keep our friendship. And they came with their broccolis and cauliflowers. And within 15 minutes, we got sold out. And then after that, the farmers came next year, and it was a great success.
Yes, and I know, was this inspired at all by Ann Arbor, Michigan? Because you lived there. Did they already have farmers markets when you were a student there?
Yeah, it had a city-run market. It was covered, and it was a good market.
Yeah, it was a good model, perhaps. But Missoula quickly evolved, and now there are 3 farm markets downtown.
Yeah, there are People's Market, or there is a new name for them.
The crafts, or the crafts.
And then the old market and the new market on Clark Fork.
And Chinwon was also regarded and appreciated for helping to begin, and I think you and Mavis McKelvey also worked with the KUFM to start the pea green boat. Was that the case? Or was that you and somebody else?
I really didn't start it, but we started out with a book reading program. And we chose a voice in the community. That was a good way to enlarge the audience, because when somebody's father is reading a book on the radio, then his children are going to listen, right? And their neighbors and so on. So the audience grew, and it was a great success. And then we decided that we needed a name. And there were many applications, but I said, I proposed pea green boat.
Pea green boat?
And I won.
You won the
I
lottery.
didn't get a prize, but I
You didn't get a prize. Missoula got the prize.
Yes.
We got pea green boat.
It still goes on.
I even listen to it if I'm driving someplace. I do. It's so fun, you know. Children's songs and stories, fun stories, and sort of little clips.
It's a whole hour too. That's hard programming, I think, 4 hours. Oh, I just see that these things are waiting for us.
Okay, let's walk along.
Yeah.
So another beautiful Ito lemon dream. So there should be one called lemonade that people could just stop and have a drink, but they can have a sniff if they want. We try not to have people walking in because their shoes catch the signs, and pretty soon we don't know what's there anymore. But beautiful colors, right? So there's such a variety. The one just back there, if you want to catch that coral color, that's kind of worth noting. And the difference between that coral, this is called pink Hawaiian coral. So it has a coral and pink and Hawaiian look. It looks exotic, maybe from the island of Kauai. I don't even think they can raise peonies in Hawaii, so that's sort of a false
this
dream.
is the Ito too, then.
Here's another Ito. And the Itos have these pointy leaves. Here's a little bit of mildew. We had such a wet spring, but if it doesn't get worse, we're okay. We've been spraying some neem oil, which is organic and helpful to kind of arrest it. But look at the pink, the great yellow and pink and white and coral. Just all shades and all shapes. and all forms. They're called bloom forms. Here's just a very elegant, simple double sorbet. So you could go to Big Dipper Ice Cream, and maybe they have sorbets. I don't know. I know that some of
look at that one.
yeah, that's called Friend. Isn't that pretty? That double
That
back
is
in here. Here's Friend. So that makes sense, that because Chinwon is our friend and friendly besides. This one is at its end. All kinds of seed pods are going to come off now and go into dead heads. So they.
Oh, that's Scarlet O'Hara.
Yes, and we have 3 of them.
It's very bold. And
Bold, exactly.
There's another one there.
There's one over here that's just tail end, but that's okay. The sea of color of that big triangle bed in the
that's
middle
lovely, isn't it?
is just a sea of sun.
And the fact that the land slopes helps for the visibility of.
It does,
Yes,
doesn't it? Yeah.
If it's flat, you don't get this view.
Yeah, we do. We have this kind of natural slope of the old Lake Missoula erosion that came off of what we call now Mount Sentinel. Just kind of moving along here. I think it may be almost a lucky accident, but our landscape person and our committee people tried to figure out that they wouldn't all be red in this area and all white in another area. So there's just a lucky, maybe lucky mixture of colors.
It's a beautiful arrangement.
The yellow of Bartzella, that's a very famous Ito over underneath the Austrian pine tree. Oh, here's another set of friends of the Reinhardts that gave us, and you'll tell us a little bit because I don't really know. I think I've met these people, but these are from your friends.
Is that
the Stickney? And they gave 5 peonies, and we think, I think we're correct, that these are actually turned out to be Festiva Maxima.
Oh, I see.
And that's very common for, families.
Yeah, that's supposed to be one of the 3 peonies that they recommend.
That everybody has.
Yeah.
If you have just room for 3 peonies, be sure you have a Festiva Maxima. And the Festiva tell us a little bit, Chinwon, about the Stickney.
Festiva Maxima is a white with just a suggestion of pink.
A little red or pink tint in the center petals, where there used to be stamens, but now they're petals instead. I don't even know if they're fertile. That part is tricky. Some are and some aren't, Some have hidden pollen that the bees can sample and take to another and make their. Bees are always making hybrids. There's a bee right there flying around over in the area here. So they come when they want to. Yeah, but the Stickneys, they are family friends.
Oh, well, I think that he was a Forest Service employee.
Forest Service.
And had a PhD in botany, and he was a list maker and just unceasing seekers of all things.
Okay.
And even the dreaded weed that you call bindweed.
Oh, bindweed.
He thinks that if you kept picking off the greens so that they could not photosynthesize,
right,
then eventually the roots will die.
Yes, I know
but
that.
He hasn't proved himself yet.
That's the theory, but you can never get the roots. You just can't. I haven't. We haven't.
You have that?
We can't get the. Well, they're entwined in the iris rhizomes.
Oh.
And then you just say, well, at least I can pinch it off. That's the best I can do. Looks better for a while, if they come back. This great example, Bartzella, if you want to show here, is just how big it is. This is, look at the size of that. Splendid, it would be a good word for that flower or that bloom. Sometimes they're called blooms and not flowers. Here's another one, a cousin, a brother, a sibling, sister next door. And there's some more yet to bloom. The buds are here. So even though the garden is sort of phasing out, there's going to be a few wonderful reminders coming up. And these are Itos, and the buds of the Itos are like the tree buds, which have a little point.
Oh, I see.
And the regular herbaceous are always round on the bud.
Oh, I'm learning so much.
And the leaves are the same as the tree. We'll find a tree along the way here, and we'll kind of see that. But the Stickneys were family friends of Howard and Chinwon that wanted to provide something. So they gave us 5 roots, and we planted them in the worst soil, not intentionally, but we said, well, we don't really have a place for these. Let's just go along this circle here. And they're just like, well, we don't care if it wasn't the best soil. We're the best
my
roots.
children who came and remembered this rock,
Yes.
said, there was a rock here. And I said, we gave it to them.
Oh, yes. These rocks are almost all, not all. The one with the plaque on it is from the university, but I think the other one,
Well,
2,
when
3.
I lived in the rattlesnake, and the Montana Power was putting a gas line up the valley and was digging a tremendous trench and exposing these great big boulders. And they were taking them somewhere in big trucks. And I said, why don't you bring a truckload and dump it here? You don't have to go all the way across somewhere. And they did. So I ended up with, about maybe 30 rocks like this on a part of the property that we want to use it. And then slowly we gave things away as if it was a prize. And now we have a few left.
Well,
But this is one of them that really had a nice flat surface.
Did your kids recognize it when they saw it here?
Well,
because they're here visiting right now.
Recognized that missing. They recognized that it wasn't there.
Yeah.
So I had a story to tell.
Well, they're perfect. They're meant actually
it's,
for people to have
to sit down.
on your way through the garden. Let's sit for everybody for just a second, and I guess room for 2 at least. And the kids sometimes think they can play king on the mountain, so we try to discourage that. But there's right here by the friends of the family, Stickney family, that gave those roots. This is bed D, and this was going to be longer, but it kind of luckily isn't longer because it's a kind of a wet area. That slope that Chinwon is talking about, the tilt of the garden away from the mountain, can make, along with grass watering, can make this get too wet. So we kind of work with that. Yeah, we have a little...
Oh, this is a branch that I was thinking about.
Oh, yeah, we need to clip that off. This, let's go down here. This is going to have one more bloom. This is maybe. It's probably, it's sort of getting ready. But it's a white tree peony. But the idea here is just to remind us that the tree, kind of like lilac stems, it's called woody stems. It isn't really a trunk, a tree trunk. And it's not really bark, but it could be technically, I suppose. But it feels and looks like it's just like lilac, kind of woody stems. So it forms a shrub or a bush. Here's another ito right next to the tree. So this is formed with the pollen from a tree and the carpels from herbaceous, and it becomes its own hybrid. And here's that pointy bud, and we're going to get to see it this year. Callie's memory, if Callie remembers to show her bud, or her bloom. The color's fading down here now a little bit. We have a new one coming in, some newer ones that are coming back here. And in fact, I don't know if there's any left here. Minuet, this is it. So Minuet turns out to be this, last year it was like smaller than the one right next to it. It was just like, I don't know if I want to belong here or not.
What is that called?
Minuet, like the...
minuet?
Yeah, like the dance. Or like all those Bach minuets, wonderful pieces. And here's a wonderful piece in the flower world called Minuet. And it's really lovely, a little pink center and whitish, faded white petals, and some more side buds. These side buds are common. Some peonies have no side buds, others have, look at that's on one stem here. This is not Minuet, this is, what is it? Look.
Oh, that's
Celebrity.
Celebrity.
So this is more pink through and through. Anyway, they're having their own say right now whether they're going to tilt or not. But the garden, the words are, I was telling Chinwon when we were visiting this morning, we were told by the visiting people in this great peony show at the Holiday Inn downtown in middle of June they were saying from Oregon, the people that have these wonderful roots that sent us roots for the garden. We had to buy them, of course, but they supplied them because they have all these varieties. Anyway, they said peonies sleep and creep and leap. So this is the little minuet that for the first 2 years it slept, and last summer it crept, and this year it leaped. And it says, I'm here. So we think it's going to hang in. That's great. So we have beautiful colors. These accidentally ended up to be in the same color family. We didn't know
and then
that.
that's called coral charm.
Coral
that's
charm.
a great.
You have a lot of coral charm, don't you? You're good examples, right, in your garden. There's a peony tree at the end. It's called tree. Tree peonies often don't have a name, so that just is tree peony coral pink. So that it's what it is, tree, and what it is, peony, and then the color, coral pink. That's the last one down there by the rock, and that rock came from your yard, Chinwon. Chinwon came from Seoul. Was it Seoul, Korea? Or outside of Seoul a little bit? To go to school in Michigan, right? You can tell us a little bit. Or don't you want to tell?
Pardon?
Oh, you came from
You see,
Korea.
I lost my hearing aid, so
Oh.
I'm not getting.
Well, you're doing pretty well for somebody who's a little older than I am.
Well,
You were
yeah, I must tell you, I'm 90 years old.
90.
I'm not afraid.
and still
ashamed
helping
to
weed.
say.
Don't
But
be discouraged.
This is lovely.
So you and your friend Mi Young?
Pardon?
You and your friend Mi Young came, right? From
Oh, a friend of mine and a classmate of mine from high school came to America to study because our university career was cut short with the Korean War starting. So Myung went to University of Michigan, and I followed her there, and we lived with a family, American family who had peonies, and eventually they, the old couple died, and the house was sold, and the housekeeper said that this house was going to be apartment, made into apartment. It was a big house. So they were going to give up the garden, and she just boxed up some roots and said, take this. So this, our family garden some comes from Minnesota, Iowa, and the other component comes from Michigan, where I was a student. And my friend still lives in Ann Arbor, and she is also a peony fancier. The Koreans have always revered peonies, as peonies were not, dandelions or daisies. They were really precious property, and only the kings used to have them in their palaces. And in the modern times, the palaces were opened to peony viewing, and it was a great treat as a school child to troop through the peony beds. And I sort of wanted that for myself. So we started such thing at home, and it's not as grand as this, but it's modest, but it's interesting.
When you say at home, you mean up at Rattlesnake Home?
Pardon?
You mean your Rattlesnake
Yes.
Home?
Mhm.
Yeah, but that was the inspiration for this garden. The fact that Howard and Chinwon treasured these peonies and several varieties, beautiful, in their garden. I'm trying to speak loud enough so you hear as well.
Yeah, I was wondering why I couldn't hear people, but my hearing aid disconnected itself from so I have to go and run to the hearing aid.
It's fine. You're doing quite well for 90. All right, let's just work our way up to bed E. This is bed D, so we have beds A,
the
B.
big triangle.
Yeah, the big triangle is bed E. So bed A, B, C, D, E.
Beautiful.
Pardon?
It Isn't it beautiful?
It is. It's a lovely day and a
God.
lovely place.
I know.
You come here often, or
Once a year.
once a year? This is it? Are you from out of town?
No, we're from here.
No, we're here.
Well, come again. Come earlier and later, and you'll see. Yeah, you see it change. Thanks for coming. So, so we have bed A, B, C, D, E, and F, and Gary thinks we should have, Gary being one of the founding fathers, thinks we should have bed G over there. Then we have the musical alphabet completed. Right now we only have 6 of the 7 different notes. A, B, C, D, and E, and F.
Oh, I see.
So the G would be lovely to flank the amphitheater.
Oh,
But
that might be good, isn't it?
yeah, to balance, because the Greeks were so into balance. Anyway, this was Mr. Prescott's gladiola garden at one time, so the flowers are famous to grow in this place. I used to say hello to him on my way up to the M,
Oh,
Clarence Prescott, and nice day, you know, it wouldn't be much more than that. And he'd say, yes, yes, good to see you guys. Anyway, so this is bed E, and this is quite splendid, and it's sort of framed by bed F up there against the pear tree rise. We see bed B here, bed C against the hedge. Bed A is the little one where the peonies are from Howard and Chinwon's garden, a lot of them. And now we're in bed E. And E, here's a peony that didn't come from Howard and Chinwon, but they have it in their garden. And in their garden, up several miles up the Rattlesnake, this is Cytherea, and it's just starting to bloom up there. But here it's finished, and we'll deadhead it in a few days and let the leaves feed the roots for the rest of the summer. This was practically our first peony to bloom, so we've already deadheaded this one, and try to leave it as a beautiful ornamental foliage and a shape for the summer. So that's nosegay. And here's Festiva Maxima again. This is the
is that Maxima?
this is the official, and there's the reds on the blooms.
Oh,
And
and
these are called lactiflora if there are side buds. They say the peony type is lactiflora, and it used to just mean white flower, but now it means any color that can be lactiflora. There's one right there with some pink. It's called Joker, and there's the end of the blooms there. But you see some pink. But you see 2 buds per stem, sometimes 3, or sometimes just 1, but they do their thing. Here's more lactiflora. So here's 1 stem with 2 blooms. And the lead bud often makes the biggest bloom, and then the side buds are either later or smaller. But it makes a nice bouquet, and why not? There's no reason.
oh, and that is lovely, isn't it? That very much. With
The-
a single.
That one is, I think, Topeka garnet, but I have to look to see. The sign is on the other side. Are you talking the red one? Yeah, with the sun coming through the reds.
Yeah, it's
great.
gorgeous.
This is moonstone. I think it's another bomb, a double bomb, so it's fully evolved, and that's what it decided to do. I'm going to sneak over here. Yes, Topeka garnet. Garnet, I suppose. Is garnet kind of a red gem? Natural. So, Chinwon and I were talking about this lovely flower. I have to be sure. Myra McCrae. I don't know who Myra McCrae was, but she got a peony named after her. So, that's lactiflora, several buds per stem, but the lead bud is the lead bloom. And then these are going to come later. If I see, there are also examples where there's only one bloom, 1 bud per stem, and I don't have memorized where they are, but if our eye catches them, those are a result of hybridization as well. But lactiflora, this multiple bud per stem, is pretty common. And the lactiflora was the original Chinese peony, apparently. Its original name was albiflora, like albino. Albiflora, and that's the parent of many. It's like they say the parentage of albiflora or lactiflora is the other name for the same original Chinese non-hybridized forever ago peony. is the parent of many hybrids. I don't even know what percentage, but they say it's in there. It's like Adam and Eve. It's Adam and Eve from Lactiflora, kind of. In the beginning. Beautiful. Here's a bowl of beauty, it's called. This could be a Japanese, but Japanese and anemones are pretty much in the same category. When there's peony shows, they just say there's one category for all the Japanese and anemones. And the anemones have a little wider petal, these that used to be carpels, not carpels, but stamens and pollen. Now they're just petals. And if it's a anemone, and I guess the anemone flowers look like this, all much smaller, but that center can be a different color, sometimes can be the same color, and the petals are a little bit wider than in the Japanese. So this one over here should be categorized possibly Japanese. It's a little bit lacier. It almost looks like it's pollen. And in some of the Japanese ones, this actually is active pollen. This is just a single, so here's a good example of, and that's just stamens and pollen and carpels and guard petals. So it's kind of, I sometimes say it's like hot and cold. How many temperatures are there between hot and cold? That's how many different varieties you get in the peonies. It's everything. This is our most scented one, Madame de Verneville. I don't know if that was her name or the name of the town, the Madame from Verneville or something. Mademoiselle, or Mademoiselle, perhaps, Madame. But looks like it's a cousin of Festiva Maxima. But it's the sniffiest one in the whole garden. And we're glad it's in the front row so people can just lean over and smell its beautiful perfume. Some of them have a fragrance, some of them have a scent, and some of them have a perfume. And this one's kind of a perfume. Look at this great one. Princess Margaret. And again, look at, it's bigger than my two hands almost. So if it were a hand, it could reach more than an octave. It's an octave wide. It's a Steinway flower. It could play the piano with all those petals. This one wasn't supposed to be so tall. Linda's dream that we were supposed to have short ones, but it worked out because you can see around anything behind it, and it's sort of it's not right in front. It's back a little ways, so it's
wow,
4 feet.
That is tall.
Yeah. This flower right here, I didn't show the other week. This is the flower I was telling Chinwon. This flower has a long, weak stem.
You see how thin the stem is? So it just can't...
Tips over. So Gary put in a little stand.
So they have a device that just keeps the...
Because it has a beautiful flower. It's Souvenir de Maxine Cornu. And I don't know who Maxine Cornu was, but I hope
But
she...
does that stick go all the way down to the ground?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we're probably going to keep the plant and prop up a few blooms. And this year there's only 3, and I'm sorry to tell you, our peony thief stole the one over here. You need to show this to our viewers. Can you believe somebody would come and take the flower right out of the stand?
Oh.
I mean, she thought she deserved it more than, and we know it's she because we have a picture of her. We haven't caught her in the act, but
Oh, you mean somebody's... Oh,
somebody actively comes and pinches off whatever they think they deserve. So, I know it's nobody from your family, though.
No.
This one is almost like your friendship.
Oh, that is lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, look at that. Look at the beautiful red carpels inside and the yellow of the... This,
that is lovely.
This should be a single. And it's Revita. I don't know where they get the names, but they get them. So that's really pretty. So bed E, we're not going to really go all the way through it, except I do think this is Miss America.
Oh, which one? This one? Oh, I see.
And the reason I think it's Miss America is here's Kansas, and here's Nebraska, and here's Miss Iowa,
Oh,
and here's Miss North Dakota. I don't know. There's
Really?
no, not really, but it's
Wonderful.
well, there's plentiful examples from everywhere. This is going to be Red Sarah Bernhardt. She's sleeping,
she's sleeping.
and next
being
year she'll
active.
creep, and maybe she'll leap after that. I like that saying: sleep, creep, leap. So be patient with peonies. They take their time to decide what they're going to do. Okay, I think we're getting to a good place. Here's another beautiful combination. What is this one? This is garden lace. And here we're back to Mrs. Roosevelt. Yeah. So we also have a President Roosevelt and we have a President Lincoln. Yes, we're at the end of a nice little tour. And
Oh, thank you so much. I learned so much just following you, even with my hearing.
even
aid
though you
off.
couldn't hear a word, no, you heard lots. Oh, anyway, we're thrilled that Howard and Chinwon inspired us in the community of Missoula. They inspired the farmers market, they inspired their colleagues at the university, they inspired the Pea Green Boat and KUFM, and I can tell you that Chinwon was one of the people who helped the Hmong people. Did you help start Safe Landing or Soft Landing?
No, I didn't.
That's different.
But it was when the monks came, they were wonderful gardeners or farmers. They came to the market, but they just squatted on the ground, on the sidewalk, spread newspapers and put dirty potatoes. And so I
And
had
that's
to
how they
sort of-
did it in their country.
So we had to sort of give them a table. So a church gave our donations. We had some carpenter make collapsible tables.
Collapsible tables.
And they started with that, and then they took off. They could grow spinach in August, which nobody else could.
They could grow everything. Yeah, so the whole idea grew into even more of the farmers market, right? They became,
They became indispensable, actually.
yes, but that helped them get situated, right, in Missoula. And
I think that there was a general, Bang Pao, who was helping the U.S. Army, and when the Vietnam fell,
right,
then they had to be evacuated, airlifted, I think.
airlifted, yeah. And Missoula did we volunteer to
Well,
become?
so there was a Green Beret or somebody who had come from Missoula, and they thought, well, these are mountainous people. Montana is mountainous.
And mountainous, yes.
But that wasn't a good equation because this was a different climate.
Yes.
It's so arid, and over there it was so moist and jungly. But they adjusted one beautifully, I think.
Yeah. Their farm,
And then the Russians came afterwards and brought us cucumbers, which can't be beat.
yeah, right. Well, Missoula is known for being a place that's welcoming of many peoples, so that's great. And Chinwon included, and we're so glad you settled in Missoula, and that was, of course.
I'm so glad.
I remember.
here.
I remember you telling me once that you thought you wanted to be in a place more urban, right, with more
Yeah, I
excitement.
came from Seoul,
Excuse
Korea,
me.
which was
No, that's not us. It's just
Urban.
there. Came from Korea.
oh,
Seoul, very.
Seoul, very big and very crowded. And Montana seemed so rural, and I wasn't used to it. And so I urged my husband to seek another employment somewhere bigger, like New York City. And he said, I'd rather die. And he had grown up in Idaho, and this was the other side of this hunting ground on the Laksa.
In the Laksa, right?
So he knew what to expect here, and this is where he wanted. And we did go and try a sort of medium-sized city, namely Madison, Wisconsin, but with 2 children and sort of being a housewife, I was stuck there.
In Madison or in Missoula?
Yeah,
In
Madison.
Really?
So when Howard had an option to come back here or go somewhere else, and he said, we could go somewhere, maybe Troy or something, New York,
Yeah.
close to New York City. And
Right.
I said, no, just let's go back to Missoula. And I never said again, go somewhere else.
Oh, this is where you dwelled.
So I took root and
You took root, and the peonies are taking
Yes.
root now. It goes to the next generation. Well, we're so thrilled you're
oh,
here.
thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you. And we enjoy this garden so much, and I see dozens of people here just on many.
Yeah, they are just coming in regularly.
Many. Here comes some more up the steps here to take a look at the garden. And it's open to the public, and it's also available for contributions if people want to contribute. It's possible. The UM Foundation has a Peony Garden Fund, so it's not too difficult to figure out. $5, $10, whatever anyone can afford is helpful, because we have to groom them and we have to occasionally replace or try a different variety where some variety decides it's not as happy. So we're finding out everything that works. So thanks to everybody, and come to see the garden, and thank you, Chinwon.
Oh, thank you.
Tilt
Oh.
of the garden away from the mountain,